Country has their own interest and own perception, and we benefit greatly from your thoughts. Appreciate you joining us. Roxanne Zigon joining us from Russia. Ma'am, thanks very much for taking out the time, equally for having this conversation. What do you make now of what the priorities of a G20 presidency, as that have been highlighted by our Prime Minister and Foreign Minister? What would be your priorities, ma'am?
So first of all, I would like to thank you for inviting me, and I hope that I can deliver quite a balanced position and point of view, considering the fact that I'm presenting Russia, Europe, and actually partially the Asian affairs as well, due to the fact that I have been living, working, and studying abroad for about 2 decades. So I'm located now in Russia, in Moscow, and it gives an exceptional, perhaps a unique opportunity to give a crossroad, let's say, overview of the situation and perception. First of all, I would like to praise the G20 India's presidency, to congratulate the Prime Minister Narendra Modi and also the External Affairs Minister, Mr. Jaishankar ji, and all the Indians, the Indian nation, with this remarkable event. First of all, how can I see it? How can I perceive it? Not only from here, from Moscow, but also from the global perception. I think India has come on the big chessboard just in time. First of all, because despite the fact that the whole world, the global situation, has been really on sitting back, for quite some time due to COVID and other geopolitical tensions and uncertainties that we have been all witnessing recently. I think it's a star hour for India in order to recover, to rebalance the things in the global affairs. As has been said before. That,
okay, so let me pick on the point. Let me pick on that point, because the perspective from here, Roxanne, ma'am, was that we were talking about the Indo-Pacific, and suddenly we've been flung back into a reflection that goes back to NATO and the Cold War, which has at the very least been surprising. Has it gone well? What has been achieved, either by Russia or by NATO or by Ukraine, other than a lot of pain?
I think, to my point of view, we still are at the middle road. I don't see a kind of roadmap or a clear perspective in consideration of the relationship between Russia and the West at the present moment. And the recent G20 in Indonesia has clearly shown that there is no consensus, there is not even kind of position or readiness to rebalance these affairs. But I think that India, with its exceptional position of the neutrality in its foreign policy, its balanced attitude, approach to the global affairs.
Okay, so let me ask you about the neutrality, because we've come under heavy criticism for continuing to purchase oil from Russia, for not being more aggressive in the UN Security Council resolutions, and recent requisitions from Russia regarding supply of spare parts. So there have been a lot of pressure, obviously. When you say balance and neutrality, what does that actually mean to you?
I think that there are 2 aspects that India can deliver in relationship with Russia. First of all, to keep on going on communication in regard to the technological exchange, educational, cultural, humanitarian, etc. And I think that India should really keep a few steps backward in relationship to any kind of issues which are related to the conflict in Ukraine, etc. So I would recommend hardly to keep a neutral position in this aspect.
Okay, so does neutrality therefore mean a conduit for conversation?
I think India should stay more diplomatic than more academically diplomatic in this aspect.
Okay, I appreciate the thought. What do you make of the fact that just now in the recent past few weeks, there have been very high profile meetings? The German Chancellor Gerhard Scholz has been in Beijing. We've had US President Biden meet Xi Jinping. Kamala Harris has met him. This all happened in the past few weeks. the meetings with Vladimir Putin are not taking place for sure, but they're taking place with Xi Jinping. Does that make sense to you?
Frankly speaking, it doesn't make sense to me at all. I consider that the current track of the Russian policy reminds me as a kind of sitting inside of the bubble. You know, maybe it will appear a bit of a criticizing approach, but I think that it should be more proactive and more balanced in relation to India and China. I think that Russia has started losing its diplomatic grip in this sense.
Okay, ma'am, before I let you go, coming back to the G20 and India's presidency, is there a logic, perceptorial shift, not just because of what has taken place in Ukraine, but because India is now, as of yesterday, growing at 6.3%, we are now the 5th largest economy. Do you still perceive India as a country in need and a place of, you know, poverty and desperation, or do you perceive us as a country on the move and economically different today than it was even 10 years ago?
I'm absolutely optimistic about the future of India. Just a few months ago, I had an interview with a former ambassador of India in the Russian Federation, and I have asked him the same questions. I asked him, how do you see India in 2045? And he said, well, I see it more powerful than China. That was the starting point. I think that there are great economic perspectives, technological, and I'm pretty fond of the idea of rebranding India and making India as a hotbed, as a driving force, as a fuel of the new global agenda. And I would actually recommend to India and to also the Indian officials to reflect about offering a new terminology and new terms for the globalism. I would say to go away from sustainable development and to give preference towards new enlightenment.
Okay.
Actually,
that's a good point. Finally, ma'am, what can be achieved in a G20, given that there are such open schisms in its top members at this point of time? There would be a difficulty to see eye to eye for us and China. There would certainly be difficulty for the United States and Russia to see eye to eye, and European powers to see eye to eye right now. What can be achieved in this environment?
Let's put it that way. Let's look at this new chessboard. If the West is still actually pressing on the idea of rationalism or neorealism, and China is actually playing on the game for its supremacy, I think it's still a rehearsal of the same old terms that we have been witnessing. India can rebrand the whole aspect, the whole understanding of this sustainable development, globalism, regional relationship, etc., because India has a kind of essence of wisdom and balanced position. Philosophy, conceptual approach is really very helpful for India.
Okay.
And I think it will help a lot to build up a new strategy.